Hello there and welcome to the latest instalment of our video guide series with Tourism Northern Ireland. Today we're looking at how tourism businesses can best collaborate with other local businesses to promote themselves successfully on an international stage. What makes some tourism destinations more successful than others? Today we'll be exploring what sets them apart and what we can learn from other regions. We'll be giving you some advice on how to create partnerships and overcome the inevitable challenges of working together. Joining me today are Kate Taylor and Andy Patterson. Kate is a keynote speaker and lecturer, also a consultant and a trainer specialising in the tourism and hospitality sector. And Andy is Tourism Northern Ireland's Regional Manager for Newry, Mourne and Down. You're both very welcome. Thank you for your time. Andy, before we get into the detail of collaboration and why it's effective and why it's important, perhaps you could just sort of take the pulse of tourism in Northern Ireland and how healthy is the industry at the moment?
Well, tourism is doing very strongly in Northern Ireland at the moment. It's worth about £760 million to the local economy every year, and that's revenue that's generated across all of Northern Ireland in every region, every constituency. There's about 52,000 jobs supported by tourism in Northern Ireland, and latest statistics show that tourists were spending about £2.4 million per day, every day for the first 9 months of last year. So pretty strong performance and a very strong industry, and an industry that's grown even more quickly than other comparable industries like IT, manufacturing, agriculture over the last decade.
You've got some figures on the spend difference between international visitors and domestic visitors.
Yeah, sure. So when we look at our spend per head per visitor when they're in Northern Ireland, if it's visitors outside of the UK, it's around £300 per visitor. Compare that to domestic and it's about £100. So if we're getting 3 times the value of international customers coming into Northern Ireland, it makes sense that we go after international visitors coming into here. And they spend more money whilst they're here, they stay longer. So really that's where the opportunity lies, I suppose, going forward in the future.
How do we appeal to them, Kate?
Well, that's the key, isn't it, really, is that we know they're going to spend more, we're going to know they're going to stay. We have to give them the reasons to come, to stay longer and to spend more. And that's what a lot of our work recently has been looking into in terms of, how can we create what we're calling saleable experiences. I like to call them buyable experiences, even though that's not a real word. Just so that, overseas they're looking at, they're Googling, trips to this area or this continent even. And they need something that's engaging and of interest and actually connects with them in terms of a feeling. When we talk about experience, it's like, how do we make them feel? And that's what will engage and get an emotive response in them and have them actually picking up the phone or logging on and actually booking the experiences here. So it's giving them something they really want.
Yeah, and I think, as Kate says, it's moving away from that model of 2 nights dinner, bed and breakfast, a transaction-led offering that they can get probably anywhere in the world. So we're not necessarily competing on the price or competing on the value, but it's the actual experience that's authentic to Northern Ireland. What can they do here where they can't do anywhere else in the world? And for businesses, the challenge is to identify that USP and to be able to build that into their offering.
We're all aware here, Kate, that we have what we feel is a pretty good tourism product. There's so many interesting, amazing things to see and do in Northern Ireland, but we are perhaps struggling making all of that relevant or making all that obvious to the overseas market or internationally. Why do you think that is?
I agree. It's an amazing offering you have here on lots of different levels. And it's just a matter of making that decision from here on in and saying, right, now our main focus, or one of our main focuses going forward for our shared vision into the future is tourism based, like the amazing figures that Andy was talking about. And really it is as simple as that in terms of making that decision and then basing strategy and tactic around that. You already have all the amazing landscapes and businesses and offerings on the ground. So that's the difficult bit done. You're not building from scratch. It's now about positioning and branding overseas.
What can we learn from other destinations?
The most successful destinations, not just within this country, but worldwide, seem to have 3 things in common. They have a shared vision, so a strategy, a focus and an aim, which we have. They also build these experiences rather than selling individual products. which we're now starting to do. We're starting that discussion. And they also have this interesting new term that's being bandied about, this co-opetition. And it's very much a new mindset that's coming to tourism, and those areas that actually display this and actually have the mindset of co-opetition are streets ahead, the ones that aren't quite there yet.
What exactly does co-opetition mean?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? So it's basically cooperation and competition. Okay, so it works really, really well in tourism, and it's a leveled sort of mindset. So basically what it means is that the tourism businesses still continue to compete with each other on the ground, which means that they can then collaborate or cooperate locally and then compete on an international stage. Okay, so what's really important is it isn't just cooperating, because that can be a bit dull, shall we say. You're just bundling together things and then putting a price on it and trying to sell it. What happens with co-opetition is you still have that level of competitive banter, if you like, on the ground.
You've got a great example of a region making a success of that, Kate, from your own town.
That's right. So I'm based in Kinsale on the south coast, and I've looked worldwide at this strategy and competitive strategy in general, and I haven't found anywhere else in the world that actually replicates this mindset of co-opetition like Kinsale do. And a great quote from Hal McElroy, who was the chairperson of the Chamber of Tourism in Kinsale for years. He always said that we work together to bring them into Kinsale, and then we fight over them when they get here. You know, and it's not quite as aggressive as that on the ground. But what it means is, I don't know if you've heard of the Kinsale Good Food Circle. So it's 10 different restaurants who collaborate together to market internationally and have really put Kinsale on the worldwide map as the gourmet capital of Ireland. But what makes it really work is the fact that they all compete tooth and nail for every single person that comes into every restaurant and orders a meal in Kinsale. So that keeps the level of innovation up with interesting menus, it keeps the pricing in line, and it just keeps that nice sort of varied approach that you get that you don't really see in many other places when it comes to food.
And I would say, like coming out of the Year of Food and Drink that we've just come out of last year, there's been some really good examples of businesses that have come together under that banner, and have started to really cooperate and to realise their offering, and you know, up around Armagh and Derry and along the Causeway Coast, and more so now in Newry, Morning Down. There's businesses that are really enthusiastic and see the market opportunity for tourism and are really doing their best to work together.
So there's a fair amount of work involved in getting to that stage, Kate. This isn't just a short-term thing, but once you've built that collaboration, what next?
Yeah, once you have the collaboration and once you have the experiences built, there's some real quick wins to get them out there. And a couple of things we really need to make sure we remember. The first thing is that we're always still selling the destination or the region first, never our individual business. So think about our websites. A great example is there's a ski resort called Mansfield Mount Buller in Australia. And there's actually a bus hire company that uses just amazing epic mountain shots on the front page of their website. There's no bus in sight, whereas our bus companies might have their best 52-seater front and centre on their homepage. You know, we need to say, well, where are we going to take them to and from first? That's the first. And just shifting the mind and making sure we're selling the wider experience at all times. And then in order for people overseas to find us, we really, really have to make sure we get our search engine optimization right, and that we optimize our website, again, based around destination phrases. So for example, family hotel Northern Ireland. Not just 4-star hotel, like a lot of us would have, you know. So we make sure there's a descriptive term about the style of the business, and then some sort of a regional description as well, so that we're not getting wasted organic traffic for people who have no interest in this area that are going somewhere else. What can work really, really well, again, to just show that we're selling a whole destination and that there's lots to do when they get here, to have a top 10 or a top 99 or a top 1,000 or whatever it is you can come up with on your Facebook page, on your website. So you should have a landing page on your website with top 99 things to do in Northern Ireland, because that's the kind of thing people are searching for. So they'll find that on Google, and then they'll say, well, this is how you book it, and you have some of those things worked into your actual experiences. Again, because we're talking about the emotive response and the experiences, make sure you use real people, and not just models either, on your website, but, families looking like they're enjoying themselves, couples having a romantic meal, not just a plate of food, the people actually enjoying it themselves as well. Really, really important, because again, it's about the feeling, it's about the wider experience that we're selling. And I suppose just the last quick win there would be, remember those anchor businesses that we both mentioned. Remember to associate yourself with the Titanic experience, the Causeway, the Game of Thrones, because they're what are trending online and in people's interests as well. So just really, really important if you can find some way to associate or even have a page on your website mentioning some of these things when they're in the area. It's another way of piggybacking on it as well.
What do you think are some of the challenges involved in this?
Well, I think the first thing to realise is there will always be challenges and pitfalls, and even the most successful destinations worldwide still have challenges. So that's, I think, really reassuring to actually just accept that and understand that. The main one is differing objectives. People coming around the table, they're all at different stages in their own business life cycles. They have different types and sizes of product offerings. Of course they want different things. We just need to accept that and get on with it. And we don't need to like everybody around the table. You just need to work with them and work effectively, and resolve issues really, really fast. What's really useful to know as well is, especially when areas like this are starting to collaborate, it's really important not to bite off too much at the beginning, bite off more than you can chew, because what happens then is there's an initial surge of energy and focus, and then everyone sort of gets a bit tired, and it's sort of there's a slump, and again, that's the norm, that's the cycle in these kind of things. So you have these sort of pushes, certain seasons of the year, or to push a certain event or marketing campaign, and then it's okay to relax a bit and just pull back and settle, and then come up with the next plan.
You've been studying this obviously in great detail, Kate. What are the key things that we can learn from other destinations, places like Kinsale?
The key thing really is, once you decide to work like this, what can be very useful is just to pull in the movers and shakers, as I call them, early on. You need the right people around the table who have the energy, who have the contacts, who have the budget as well, in a lot of cases, to actually make it work. So that's really, really key, to look at whatever group you're working with, and if there are gaps in that group, literally pick up the phone to people and pull them in, and have a mix of the right people around the table. And when I say people around the table, it's like every single business around the table has to take responsibility for their own commitment to it. What happens well in Kinsale to sort of encourage the responsibility, I mentioned the Good Food Circle, so there's 10 in the group. If there's a big event coming up, they literally, each of them, write a cheque for exactly the same amount, all into the one kitty. They all commit to a certain amount of man hours, a certain amount of staff, a certain amount of stock. And it's committed up front, and then you sit up very straight and say, okay, we're going to have to make this work now, if I've actually committed to that extent, and that works really, really well. What they do well in Kinsale as well is they celebrate really well as well. So what happens is really busy season, right from St. Patrick's Day through the Rugby Sevens, the busy summer season, to the Gourmet Festival and the Jazz Festival into the end of October. And then they have a really great night out, the people who are actively involved in the events. Just to say, didn't we do well? This is great. Everyone pats each other on the back and say, brilliant, let's rest a bit now in the off season. We did good. Now let's learn and move on and do even better next year.
Couldn't be too hard selling parties
Exactly.
to all the different people
I think
involved.
it's a fantastic opportunity here to sell parties in Northern Ireland, yeah.
How can Tourism Northern Ireland and other agencies help to start this process and to build more collaboration between the various businesses here?
Yeah, so there's examples where we're working with clusters of businesses at the moment, and that's really looking at what their offering is as a group of businesses, and then relating that back to the market opportunity. So where's the specific market opportunity coming from, what geographic location, and how does that need to be packaged up to meet the needs of visitors coming from those areas. And also I think working with the likes of Kate as well, who brings a wealth of experience from businesses in areas like the Wild Atlantic Way or specifically Conceal, because I think we can learn a lot from those destinations, but we can we can put a Northern Ireland look and feel and authenticity to it as well. I think we do have something that other regions or nearest neighbours don't have, and I think we need to work together to be able to sell that to international visitors coming in.
We'll lean on you again then, Kate. What would be your top tips for building these mutually beneficial collaborations?
Well, again, it's really back to the saleable experiences and putting together packages. I don't like to use the word packages, but that's what they are, I suppose. But again, as it's moving away from that 2 nice bed and breakfast and 1 evening meal and maybe an Irish coffee or a walking tour if you're very lucky, to something that really, really does suit the specific markets that we're looking at. And also a money can't buy element. People love to get something that they don't think anybody else has had, or that the other tourists aren't getting, or they think that you're sharing a secret with them.
Andy, then one of the challenges from what Kate is saying is we'll have to try and encourage businesses here to think more like one collective. Do you think that'll be difficult?
No, from what I've seen and experienced of businesses so far, that there's that entrepreneurial spirit, and tourism businesses have been expert in this field, for a long time. There's some businesses, great businesses, that have been in the business for a long time. I think if we can help to encourage them to work together to create experiences that are really emotive, that give our visitors memories, then I think that's our role. Help them to get to market, and the visitors will come.
Building that awareness overseas, Kate, is the big challenge then. Is there anything our viewers of this video can be doing right now to help kickstart that process?
Well, once they've built their saleable experiences, Tourism Ireland have some amazing platforms overseas, and especially some really well-priced. So for £50, you could, be putting out a Facebook promotion for the Italian food market or for the French cycling market or something like that. What's really important while you're putting these together, though, is to think strategically about them, not just randomly be creating these experiences. So you should be creating them either by target market. So for your, say, French foodies, or your Italian hill walkers, or your American families with young children, so you have to get a clear mind of who you're actually targeting, and then build it to exactly match their wants and needs and desires. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Another way is really piggybacking on a trend, like the Game of Thrones trend. I mean, people are that will run and run. It's not something that will be gone at the end of this season. So if there's any way of engaging with that, or even say with the Titanic or Giant's Causeway, where they're known international brands, don't sit back and say, oh, my small business, why aren't I getting the same amount of promotional opportunities? I would say piggyback on it and associate yourself with it and build in something to try and get people staying longer and spending more. So I think that's really important, is to actually, not just randomly put these together, because Tourism Ireland overseas are not going to be interested necessarily in them if they're not actually, really pinpointed and they make logical sense. Great images to send to Tourism Ireland, with your offer and with a clear way of booking it. Then once you get to that stage.
Clearly a lot of work to be done. Andy, what do you think is the near future? What is the current vision for tourism in Northern Ireland, and how rosy is the future picture?
Well, the vision is very strong. It's looking at growing tourism in Northern Ireland to a £1 billion export industry by 2025. I want to talk about an export industry that's about attracting international visitors to come and spend their time and money here. And in order to reach that vision, it'll require a step change in terms of how we work together, because the Tourist Board the councils, the businesses that are meeting and greeting and serving our guests. None of the individual parts can do that on their own, but if we work together in collaboration, you mean that vision is very well versed, and it's something that we could reach in 10 years' time.
Andy Patterson, Kate Taylor, thank you very much for your time, your energy and your expertise. Really interesting stuff. That's it for this current batch of video guides. I hope you found them helpful. Over the 4 weeks we covered building a brand, content marketing and social media, understanding digital, and today's work on collaboration. If you missed any of them, they're all still on our YouTube page. All the details are coming up next. Please do get in touch with any comments. We look forward to hearing from you. Bye for now.